You can lose weight, you can lose fat by, mindfully eating. You don't have to track everything. You can get stronger mindfully eating. There's
Mhm.
so much power in that. So, yes. Do you want to be tracking when you're 80 years old? Do you want to be on a diet when you're 80 years old? You don't.
We are so excited today. We have special guest Katy Ferguson on with us. Katy is a gym owner and also a certified nutrition coach and personal trainer. And she is so lovely in her empowering messages, just telling women, what they need to know about fitness, nutrition, body positivity, helping them fuel their bodies correctly, and all doing it while having two littles and kind of finding peace with that, busy lifestyle. And I really think that Katy is going to be an awesome resource if you are kind of feel like you've fallen off track or you feel like you're off the wagon and it's burning down. Katy, we're so excited to have you today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
Yeah, I can't wait to just like dive right into it. So tell us a little bit of your backstory with fitness and how you got started in this lovely industry.
Yes, yes. And so I didn't like really play sports growing up, and that surprises a lot of people. They're like, I just thought that you were like an athlete your whole life, and I wasn't. So I had body issues growing up. I feel like everybody in our generation kind of did. You heard teachers and your moms and aunts and everybody talk about their body in a negative way, and so I grew up with those things as well. And so I always was really conscious of my thighs, like always had, conscious of my thighs. So I ran miles and miles and miles on the treadmill, constantly tracking, constantly looking to see how many calories I burned. And then I found strength training. I actually found CrossFit, and it truly, truly changed my life. You know, those thick thighs that I always didn't like turned into like powerful, just like amazing things. And so it changed my body, like strength training changed my body. It changed just my confidence and everything. And so I I was a teacher at the time. I taught kindergarten. And I taught kindergarten for 7 years. Then once I had my daughter, I stopped teaching and I became a stay-at-home mom. And I still, obviously, like fitness was still very much a part of my life. And I met my business owner actually at the gym, and she was doing some like clean and jerks. And I'm like, do you like do CrossFit? It wasn't at a CrossFit gym. It was just like the big scary part of the gym. I'm like, do you
Mhm.
do CrossFit? And she's like, I used to. And we like started connecting. And then 2 months later, we opened a women's only fitness company. So it's crazy. Like what was happening is like women were dropping their kids off at like the tack care or whatever and going and running miles on a treadmill. And they're like, why am I not gaining muscle? I'm like, because you're not lifting weights. And so for us, we were like, we want to empower women. We want to do what lifting weights did for us. And that's empowering women through functional fitness and strength training is our motto. So we started that. That's in person. That's in St. Louis. And then during the pandemic, when everything shut down, I had a 5-year-old and a 3-month old. No, I had a 3-year old and a 3-month old. It was crazy times. And I was like, I want to take all this knowledge that I have and put it out to the world. And so I started my Instagram, and yeah, so now, and I'm a certified nutrition coach. I have a bunch of certifications. So it's funny, like I'm still like a teacher at heart, right? But just in a different facet. So it's been awesome.
I think
Yeah.
that's really, just so lovely and inspiring that you're it's once it gets a hold of you, like that love for strength training, it's
Mm.
just something that you just, every woman you see, you're like, so let me tell you about functional fitness because like it's so like we've always said this, about weightlifting and about strength training is that it's so much more than what happens at the gym. It's the way you walk outside of the gym. It's all your interactions with everybody at work, your family members. It
Absolutely.
transcends the gym and it just, makes you want to spread that message, because so many women are feeling that lack of confidence in those areas. And it's a barbell away. It's like, it's so
Absolutely.
beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have you on, because I think that you do a fantastic job of simplifying a very complicated industry with lots of crazy messaging. And it's always, going back and forth with which is the newest trend. And I think that your messages are extremely simplistic and easy to understand. And I love that, especially in this time of year, because, the summertime is, routines go out the window. I think that a lot of people have come to a place where they're like, we try to get everything in these 3 months, and we're
Yeah.
going from event to event and cookout to cookout. They say barbecues other places. We are in Massachusetts. I think that's a regional thing. We say cookout. I don't know. Is that weird? We're cooking out.
It's the same
Fine.
thing. We call it both here in the Midwest. Yeah,
Oh, you
it's
do?
the same.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're not like,
Yeah.
but all of those routines, and there's so many events that, like, you start going like, oh, where did my Saturday morning workout go? Because I had, a parade and all of these things to go to.
Right.
And so I think that a lot of people get, kind of shamed and start shaming themselves this time of year, because they want to do all the fun things, but their health and nutrition kind of falls off the wagon. So can you speak to some people who might be feeling guilt or shame right now for kind of letting their workouts or their nutrition slide?
Absolutely. So the thing you have to remember, first of all, is that this is like, you have to view health and fitness as like a marathon, right? We're not like sprinting to anything, right? We're training for life, right? The finish line is death. I mean, not to be morbid, but like that's what it is. So you're training for life, right? So the term like starting over drives me bonkers, because we're not starting over, right? If a marathon runner trips and falls, we don't say go back to the beginning and start over. We just say like get back up, tie your shoelace and get going, right? We're just back on the track, right? So we have to remember that. I think that's the first and foremost thing that you have to remember. So I kind of have like 5 tips that I always kind of go to when people come to me with these things. And the first one is to like figure out why. So why do you feel like you got off track? Were you overtraining? Were you like restricting too much? Maybe you weren't eating enough. Maybe there's stress at work, right? Maybe there's something in your environment that is out of your control that you don't have control over. Maybe it's a big change in life, right? I have a lot of like moms that I work with, and they're like, well, I just had a baby. And I'm like, okay, so that's like a life change. So that's right. Or you just moved, or, I feel like everybody's moving around me. And so it's like these big changes, like you have to figure out why it's happening first, because then once you can address the why, then you can prevent it from happening again. So once you figure that out, then you can have to take this like all or nothing mentality and just toss it out the window, because nothing in life is all or nothing. Or that perfectionist mentality or whatever you want to call it. I work with women, they're like, I don't have a perfectionist mentality. And I'm like, but I'm like more like all or nothing. I'm like, okay, so you can use them interchangeably. So I always say like gradually add one thing back in. So if you feel like you're completely off the wagon, find something that you can control right now in your bubble. And maybe that's water intake, right? Maybe that's just adding a veggie in, like one more veggie in than what you're eating before. Maybe that's going for a walk once a day for 10 minutes, right? It doesn't have to be this hour-long 3-mile hike. Ditch the all or nothing mentality. Focus on one thing until you get back in the groove. For some people, that might be 2 weeks. For some people, that might be 2 days. And they're like, okay, I feel like I got my water intake back. Now I'm going to focus on my protein, or I'm going to focus on, whatever. So yeah, focusing on just one thing, right? We feel like we have to do all of it, right? We spend that like Sunday night where we binge the last thing of ice cream and we're like, going to start fresh on Monday. Like that's not how life works. So yeah, adding one thing back in at a time is going to make it way more maintainable. That's what brings like real lasting change for sure. Yeah.
I love that you started with the why, because I think so often we just kind of go in like, well, it's chaos, it's pure chaos. Like I'm off the wagon, I don't know what to do. And it just like starts with this like kind of chaotic mentality when we haven't looked at any of the reasons why. And then we just start trying to implement things without looking at the root
Yeah,
cause. So then it's like, well, all of these things are not going to stay in place if we haven't addressed the issue, right? If we haven't kind of like
absolutely.
looked at where the bleeding started.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, for a lot of people, I think, especially in the summer, we can think of like, okay, well, my schedule has changed, and just like looking about that in a very realistic way of like I'm doing different things on the weekends, and maybe I'm doing, you know, drinking a little bit more or going out, you know, during the week, which I would normally, like, we live in New England, so in the winter you like run home and then you stay in your cave
Freezing to death.
and you do not come out until you are forced to walk your dog. But like in the summer, like we're like, oh, do you want to meet for a drink? We can go outside. We are not
Yeah,
freezing to death. Like it's a whole other thing. But it, like looking at that and saying like, well, I really do, in a realistic way, I really do want to enjoy my summer. My schedule has changed. But does that mean every part of fitness is out the window and every part of health and nutrition is out the window? No, but there's a balance between those things where we recognize that our schedule is different, and we also would like to work in or place value in our health and our fitness,
absolutely. Yeah,
right? Like it can be both.
Plus,
it can
your
be
kids are
both.
freaking home. How about
Yeah,
that?
And the kids are home. Yeah,
yeah,
like
God,
a lot
they're
of
eating your entire fridge. There's like nothing left. You're like
yeah.
stuck with like a bag of Fritos that was in the way back that nobody wants because your kids are just eating all your food and they're always around. And you're like,
well,
Right.
that's the thing too. Like your growth, like you, if you typically grocery shop like on Wednesdays, but you're out of food on Tuesday morning, you're like, well,
Right.
okay. Like they've come and they've taken everything from
Right. Right. You're
me.
stuck with like the Fritos in the back or, the half-eaten yogurt tube that's thrown in the freezer or
been
a
there.
popsicle in the freezer. I had a popsicle the other day. I was like, well, be great. This is gonna be great.
Okay.
I just recognizing that. I think you're right, Kelsey. I think just recognizing that and saying, like, hey, this is a brief amount of time. I'm going to cut myself a break for this. And also, I know why this is happening. So I don't have to blame it on that I'm such a piece of crap with no motivation. And you know what I mean? Start getting into that cycle where you can just look at it and say, like, hey, the weather's nicer. My routines are out the window. This is why.
Mm.
Okay. I'm not like, a giant piece of garbage who needs to go reevaluate my whole existence.
Absolutely.
Which was so
Right.
extreme.
Yeah.
She's so
Just
extreme.
me? Just me. Okay. That was just me. Got it.
But
I am a
those are like
giant piece of
real,
garbage.
those are real thoughts, honestly. Like those are real thoughts. And, I would be lying if I didn't, if there wasn't a phase in my life where I would have thought the same thing. And so, I feel like it's very important to recognize that, right? Because there is this like all or nothing mentality. And you're right. Like it's a season of life, right? It's a season of your year. It's a season of whatever. And so, but knowing in that season, there can still be some flexibility and we don't have to be so rigid in kind of our way of thinking and in our habits and just our daily life in general. Um, so yeah, you could like one of my favorite things like to get back on track is like find someone that thinks like you or find someone that is doing the thing that you want to do and like finding an accountability partner. So like grab a friend, grab a neighbor, grab your kids and go for a walk. Like, walking is so underrated. There
Yeah.
is so much power in walking and just in movement in general. Find a coworker and buy matching water bottles and send each other, pictures when you are drinking from your water bottle or whatever. Like, hey, it's 8 a.m. I'm already down 20 ounces. I'm pumped about this. Like, there's just so much power in having someone to do it with, especially in the summer, right? I feel like we're a little bit more, especially for you guys, you're probably a little
Yeah.
bit more social in the summertime than you are in the winter. So taking advantage of that, right? Like adding movement into that instead of like, let's go get coffee. Let's go walk and get coffee and then talk and walk as we come back. So just finding those little like snippets to kind of add that movement in your life, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to talk about nutrition a little bit too because
Yeah.
it's an important, we all have to do it. It's an
We all
important
have to
part.
eat. Yes,
I
we
was
do.
literally
So
just
sick
saying
of it.
to
I'm so sick of it.
I was saying that to Rachel yesterday as I was like, I'm just like sick of making meals and like the like having to eat. I'm like it's like interrupting my day. Like,
You're right.
but I do want to dive into nutrition because, for a lot of people, when it comes to nutrition, they think they need this like super complicated math equation, and that every food needs to be tracked and it has to meet certain parameters. Everything that goes in their mouth has to meet certain parameters, and if it does, they're on track, and if it doesn't, they're off track. It goes like one of two ways,
Yes.
which is like, a wild idea. But what are some of the dangers with like this type of thinking?
Oh my gosh. Like, first of all, we cannot label like good food and bad food, right? So, food is fuel. And that is what I like preach from the rooftops because once you start viewing food, once you start fixing that relationship with food, which sounds so silly sometimes, like you're like, it's food. And it's like a, it's like some people, it's like an ex-boyfriend or something, right? Like an ex that
Mm,
you're like, I don't want to go back to, but like with food, you have to because
yeah.
it literally is going to keep you alive. So you
Or
have
then
to
you're
fix that
hangry.
relationship. Absolutely. And right. And then everybody around you suffers. So you have to really fix your relationship with food. And, what that comes down to is stop labeling foods as good as bad and good as bad. You have to sit and mindfully eat. So you have to be thinking about what's going in while you're doing it, right? It's so easy to grab like the back of the pantry and sit there while you're eating dinner and doing that. So finding those things that's going to help you. I mean, there's so much that goes into like fixing your relationship with food. First and foremost is like stop labeling foods, right? Like ice cream is not bad, right? And like I
If you
always
eat
talk
it,
about
you
this,
haven't fallen off.
right?
Like,
Right. And it's like what you said, like people will have like a thing of ice cream or a cookout or a barbecue or have chips and they're like, I'm it, that's it, I'm done. Like throw their hands in the air. They're like, I'm just gonna eat the bad the rest of the month, the rest of the summer. And you're like, wait,
mm.
what? Like what? Because one
One
workout
cookout turned
doesn't
into the rest of the summer.
yeah, right. And and one workout doesn't make us buff or strong, right? One meal, one let's say one day of eating like that isn't going to make you not how you want to look or how you feel or whatever. So like truly understanding like the all or nothing mindset is not applied, we're not applying that to nutrition as well.
I think that it's really important when we talk to people about sustainable changes in nutrition that that mindset that everything needs to be tracked or that every bite has to fit into some kind of parameters. I think that when we talk about sustainability, what we're talking about is if that doesn't necessarily fit going to a cookout or going to ice cream with your kids at the end of a beach day, if those kind of things are going to disrupt your nutritional routine so badly that it's
Yeah,
going to cause these catastrophic kind of results, then that's what we're talking about when we say not sustainable. I think that there's some learning tools in stuff like that, in
absolutely.
writing, in journaling, and but just to understand that every day is not going to fit into that mold and that it's not a reason to panic, and
Right.
that there is like a lot of life to be lived.
There
Mhm.
is. And honestly, I tell people that are obsessed with tracking, they're like, well, tracking is the only thing that's worked for me. And I'm like, you want to know something about tracking? Nutrition labels can be off by 25%. So even if you are tracking, like even if you're weighing every single thing or doing everything, like it might not even be right. So really mindful eating and learning what your body needs, what your body wants, And it's going to be different for everybody, right? Because everybody's putting out they have different goals, they have different energy expenditures, like everything. But being reflective in that, and it's not like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to journal while I eat about how, like, it's not like that, right? It's like there's much more that goes into mindful eating than that. But truly, like, you can lose weight, you can lose fat by, mindfully eating. You don't have to track everything. You can get stronger mindfully eating. There's so much power in that. So yes. Do you want to be tracking when you're 80 years old? Do you want to be on a diet when you're 80 years old? You don't. So you got to learn now, because when you're 80, you don't want to be on a diet. And that really hit me, for me, honestly, when my grandma's friend had passed away. And she's like, now she can be in heaven and live free, and she can eat whatever she wants. That's what she said. I was like, what are you talking about, Grandma? She's like, she was always on a diet. And it, like, that hit me. Like, it hit me. I was like, man, I was 20 something years old. I'm like, holy cow, that's going to be me. Like, I was just jumping from one diet to another. And I was like, I got to do something about this. And at that time, I didn't know what to do, but I knew I didn't want to be on diets for the rest of my life. So yeah.
Wow, that's an incredible light bulb moment for me too, and I feel like for a lot of people is to like think about sometimes the end game and how you want that to look back in a reflection of
Mm-hmm.
what are you going to look back at your life and how you have enjoyed your life and what did it look like? Did you spend it restricting your entire existence so that maybe in heaven you can eat whatever you want? You'll finally be free.
Uh-huh.
Like
Uh-huh.
you can be free right now.
Absolutely.
You
That's not what
know?
I want my best friend to remember about me, that I was always on a
Right.
diet. That's
Right.
Yeah, that's really eye-opening. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's talk about some easy summer meals, because I think that, the time for like the complex and all the meal prep and all
Yes.
that stuff is often a lot easier in the winter because you don't have shit to do.
I'm like, I'm trying all of these new recipes only in the
Yeah.
I
winter.
literally have watched everything on Netflix, so I might as well meal prep. Um, but in the summer, that again, all your routines can kind of fall out and the bottom goes out, and you're like, all right, I just need something easy that I can make, that I can prep with stuff I have here, but I still want to feel good at the end of this. I don't want to order another pizza, for crying out loud. We've had 3 this week.
Right.
So, can you give us some tips, maybe some, how to build like an easy meal that is not overwhelming and, doesn't need like all these ridiculous ingredients that we might not have time to constantly shop for?
Well, I'm the person to come to for that, because I do not like cooking, even in the winter time. And so I am an easy meal person. That's like my jam. So I love, especially in the summertime. So I love smoothies. And so when I build a meal, I build it around protein. So first and foremost, I choose a protein that I want to eat and I build it around that. So I always say for women, especially, like, at least every meal you should be having like a palm size protein. So think of like the circumference and the thickness of your palm is basically how much protein you should be roughly getting each meal. So I love smoothies. Smoothies are great. I always have them for snacks or for dinner. I use everybody knows a good smoothie, right? So like milk, or I use almond milk or water based, some frozen fruit. You can put frozen spinach in there too, or I just use usually fresh spinach, ice cubes, banana. I put, a scoop and a half or a scoop of protein powder, some peanut butter, like whatever. So protein, fat, which is my peanut butter, carb, which is my fruit, and then some veggies, which is, that's spinach. So protein, fat, carb, veggie is what I try to get in every meal. So smoothie is great. It's a great breakfast option too. Easy on the go. My kids love it, right? I can make a huge one and just divide it up between my kids, and I drink it too. So it's awesome. Smoothies is awesome. Second one, I always get, whenever I go grocery shopping, I always get a rotisserie chicken. So you can do so much with
I was
whole
just,
chicken.
I'm like, I don't know if she's going to even be able to hold it in over there.
What?
She will walk
What?
around with rotisserie chicken in a bag, snacking on it.
I
Like a
it
freaking
sounds-
weirdo.
I literally
So you're
went
a
to
fan?
Rachel's house, just like I'm like walking in, we're gonna sit by the pool, and I have a rotisserie chicken. I'm just
It's
snacking on
unbelievable.
chicken. Like
Chicken in a bag.
I really enjoy chicken for a snack.
I'm the same way. Like, I love rotisserie chicken, especially when it's like freshly pulled off the chicken. Oh my gosh. It's so good. Even in the summer when it's so dang hot, like here, I think it's 100 and something degrees a day with humidity of 1,000,000. Exact numbers on that. And the absolutely exact. Rotisserie chicken, when you get it warm from the store, you bring it home, pull it off. You can add it to salads. You can add it to nachos, right? You can add it to a taco. You can put it in enchiladas. I don't know why I'm like have a Mexican theme going on here,
I'm
but
here for it.
you can.
You're speaking to me.
And you can eat it plain. You can eat it out of a Ziploc bag. There's so many. There's so many different ways that you can eat rotisserie chicken. So finding that, obviously you want to build a meal around that. So like I said, adding it to a salad, drizzling some olive oil on it, some red wine vinegar, like making that part of the balanced meal as well. So I always like another grab and go like option. Like I say, build my meal around protein. So I always grab a bunch of tuna packets from the store when I go, and I keep them in my pantry for when I don't feel like doing anything. And so, for example, my kids had mac and cheese last night for dinner. My husband made a mac and cheese. And I came home and I was like, man, I really want mac and cheese. So I had mac and cheese and I put a packet of tuna in there. That was it. Had my like little side of veggies that I threw in the microwave, like frozen veggies. There's my protein, my tuna. My carb was the noodles and the mac and cheese. My fat was the butter that was made with the noodles and the cheese mix, and then my veggie was on the side. So I think that we just like overcomplicate things in general, right? We go on Pinterest and we see like easy meal and there's 17 ingredients and you're like, what is happening? Like I can't.
Every time I go on there, I'm like, you and I have a different gauge of what an easy meal is. Because I'm like, am I supposed to have these ingredients in my house? Like, does everyone else? And then I kind of like try, like low key like check around like at people's houses. I'm like, do you guys just like always have this? And am I the weirdo? Like,
right. It's so true. Or they're like easy recipe. Chop up 3 onions and all the peppers. I'm like, listen, like my kids are hanging from the rafters by the time I'm chopping up an onion. So like I don't have time for that. Like I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. Like I don't have time for that some nights, right? Or it's summer and we're like outside. So I come in. And so it's so nice to have things like that are just easy to grab and go. Those are actually like my 3 kind of go-to meals right now. I feel like I go in like phases, especially like throughout seasons. I'm like, okay, this is like my go-to right now. So
Except tacos. Tacos is always in my face.
I mean,
I do that
obviously.
too. But there's only one thing that stays in all of the phases, and it's tacos. I can't.
Tacos.
it's like always breakfast. I mean, it always is Taco Tuesday, but then it's like breakfast Taco Wednesday.
Oh, yes,
And then
breakfast
it's
taco
already
Wednesday.
Taco Thursday. So I'm
Well,
like, oh.
Might as well go again. I mean,
Add that.
change
Absolutely.
the protein. I had chicken tacos,
Yes.
and then I'll have beef tacos.
I was trying to say that to my friend. I was like, these are distant cousins. I even one point changed from a soft shell to a hard taco. Like those weren't even, you can't say I had it twice in a day.
No.
Those were distant cousins.
Absolutely. I support that. I 100% support that. So yeah, making meals that are like super complicated, right? And just making them very, very simple. Like think about building it around protein. I'm a huge fan of an air fryer. If you have an air fryer, I buy like frozen, already seasoned fish from the store, like salmon, and throw it in the air fryer. I buy like sweet potato pies from Costco, throw theirs in at the same time, heat it up, it's done.
And it doesn't heat up your house. You're not like turning on the oven. I think that's a great summertime. Yeah. And like Target has the same, like they have the salmon that's like, already marinated, and it's just,
Hmm.
you pop it in. It's so, yeah. And you could put that on a salad. I love that. I love the air
Yes.
fryer.
Yes.
Yeah.
The air fryer has been like, it's been our saving grace. And you're exactly right. I don't want to turn on my entire oven. And even my little like toaster oven, it still heats up the kitchen so much.
Mm-hmm.
Air fryer is just, I don't know what I did without it. I feel like,
I'm saying.
I
I'm
know.
saying minute rice is another one that I don't know how I lived
Yes.
without it. I'm always like, how did I ever actually make rice?
Right.
Because that's a long time of boiling.
20
Yes.
minutes?
Like
My
Well, and like
Lord.
then
minute
you have
rice,
to
like
sit and like
yeah,
see if it's done. You got to fluff it with a fork and then it's
So
stick into
much
my
fluffing.
pot because I know, I know there's so much going on.
like
It's too
minute
complicated.
rice.
If it
I'm
doesn't
like,
have like three steps, it's out. It's out.
yeah,
Tear the bag, microwave, get it out, mix it up.
done. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think
Yeah.
those are great protein suggestions too. I wanted to talk to the ladies who struggle with getting enough veggies in. Are there some tips for people to include more veggies that they don't necessarily have to do like a lot or that they don't love?
Yeah. So, and there's, yeah. So there is, think frozen. Frozen's your friend. And a lot of people are afraid of frozen because they feel like they don't have as much nutrients as fresh, or they've been told their whole life like fresh is the way to go. But here's how fresh vegetables usually looks like in my house. I buy them. They go in the refrigerator. I don't want to cut them up and do all the things. And then I take them out because they're moldy and put them in the trash can. So I'm not saying every time, but that's how it goes for a lot of the time. I will say there's this little hack that I saw, and if you are into fresh vegetables and you find that that's happening a lot, you can put them in the door of your refrigerator. So usually where all your condiments are, you can put them in the door of your refrigerator. So every time you open them up, you see all of your veggies. Like they don't get shoved in the back of your refrigerator. So it's more like a reminder to like, hey, eat me before I go bad. So yeah, don't be afraid of frozen vegetables. So usually with frozen vegetables, they're picked and then frozen right away. So they're actually have the same nutrients as fresh vegetables too. So vitamins and minerals and all of that are relatively the same. So again, microwave is your friend, air fryer is your friend. There are packs of frozen vegetables that have like already pre-seasoned. So you can buy those. I always say with vegetables, like, don't be afraid of seasoning and adding fat to them. So, like, someone was like, I don't really like broccoli. I'm like, do you not like broccoli because you don't put butter on it? Like, she's like, oh, I love when I put like butter on it or cheese. I'm like, then do it. Like, eat broccoli. Like, I'm not saying take the whole thing of Cheese Whiz and dump it on the broccoli, your one piece of broccoli, but like, enjoy your vegetables. Like, allow yourself to add things to your vegetables, whether that's seasoning, whether it's cheese, whether it's salt. Like, find something that you're going to enjoy because most of the time that's kind of what it is. Like I don't like vegetables, and so find something that you like and stick with it. Doesn't have to
I
be, again,
love
doesn't have to
that.
be complicated.
I so agree with you that when you hear people say like, well, I don't like vegetables, and you ask them how they typically prepare them,
Mm.
it's like boiled,
No.
like steamed with
Bland.
nothing else, because it's like it's back to that all or nothing, whereas like I'm
Mhm.
either eating broccoli or I'm eating fries.
Right.
So the broccoli has to be disgusting, and I'm like on a diet, and I like can't add in anything to it because I'm restricting,
Yep.
or I'm completely off the wagon. But like, dude, broccoli is just a vehicle for the cheese. Like it's
Absolutely.
holding the cheese as a placemaker, so I don't have to eat it out of the bag. We can
Absolutely.
do
I
this.
mean, you can. And what happens is then you get all the like vitamins and minerals and all the good stuff from the broccoli, right? So you're like, yeah. And like don't like go like if you are really don't like broccoli or you're like I kind of like it but I'm going to put a little bit of cheese like cover in cheese. Like eventually you'll be maybe take a little bit of cheese off but like enjoy what you have so you like look forward to it, right?
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah.
healing that relationship with food, which sounds so silly like I said, but it's a real thing.
I like to put it in the way of like the same thing we say with our workouts is like people say like what's Kelsey, like what's the best vegetable, like what should I be eating, and I'm like the one that you'll eat.
Yeah.
So like it's like the best workout is also the one that you're going to do. So if you're either going to be like miserable trying to incorporate some veggies into your diet, or and then eventually stop doing it because you're miserable, and
Yeah.
like our like we'll just always go away from things that make us miserable, because like that's how we're designed, of course.
Mhm.
And
So
that's a
like
good thing. I mean,
yeah.
imagine
Right.
if we didn't.
like,
Right.
like survival. But like you got to find the ones that you like, or even just like when you talk about seasoning, like things that you like to season with. So like for me, typically, like I very much enjoy like spicy food, so I tend to go towards like I put red hot on things. I end up mixing my like broccoli with banana peppers. Like I know for a fact I'm gonna eat breakfast every day, so like I have vegetables in with my eggs every single day, like without fail. So I know that I'm starting off with something that includes a vegetable. It makes me feel good. I'm like already like working it into my day, so that like I know like I'm starting off feeling good
Yeah. Yeah. And
And
especially
spicy.
people that are,
and
yeah, and
spicy.
spicy. And people that struggle with vegetables, they're like, well, I have to eat a vegetable every meal. I'm like, if you're eating zero vegetables, imagine adding, first of all, how much fiber you're adding to your life by like inserting a vegetable at every single meal. Start with one
Mm,
meal. If it's just dinner, start with dinner, right? If it's
yeah.
like adding spinach in with your smoothie or whatever, or kale or whatever, do that, right? So you don't, again, that all or nothing mentality is kind of not good for you sometimes. And this instant can really like make you bloated because it's so much fiber at once. So there are benefits physically to adding in things slowly as well.
Totally. That is, people don't talk about that. But
That's
that
true.
is important, that
I
when
talk
you are
about it
going
all.
to add something and you're going to try to make a lifestyle change, you got to make sure that we're taking baby steps here, because you're going to overload your system and it's just not going to be a
Mhm.
pleasurable experience.
No, it's not.
Um,
No, it's
so
not.
when it comes to workouts,
Yeah.
okay, I have, my kids are home, they're interrupting my schedule. I'm not being able to go at the regular time. I can't, Saturday mornings that used to be dedicated to the gym. Now I am doing, outside stuff with my family and going on trips and all kinds of things. What are we going to say to people to get them back to movement when it's been missing or when it's been not a priority? And like, how do we restart without feeling like overwhelmed? One, because I think that that's a real reason why a lot of people don't want to start, or like full of shame of like, oh, well, when I was going regularly, I could do this, this, and this. And now I'm like back to square one and look how much
Mhm.
progress I've lost. And that being a negative experience. So how are we going to get back to movement if, there's been a little lapse?
Well, first of all, giving ourselves grace, first and foremost with that. Second of all, realizing that some movement is always better than no movement at all, right? So people are like, I want to do an hour walk, I want to do an hour workout, but I can't make the full hour, so I'm just going to sit here on the couch. And I was like, well, you did have time for 20 minutes. So,
Mhm.
like, there's a lot you can do in 20 minutes, right? You can go for a walk, you can, um, grab your dumbbells at home and do a little dumbbell workout. You can grab a resistance band. You can do some breathing exercises, right? There's things that you can do in those 20 minutes, right? Um, and the second thing is like find your soulmate workout, right? Find the workout that lights you up, that is the workout that you look forward to, right? When motivation is lacking, when you're like, there's only this amount of time or there's only this, um, that workout that makes you feel good. When after you're done with it, it really like you have a clear head, you're ready to go, not the workout that like takes you out and you're just like exhausted, right? But the workout that truly lights you up inside, right? Not the workout that your friend likes, right? Because we've all had that friend that's like, come to this spin class with me. I love it. And then you're like, this is going to
Yes.
be great.
My
I hate
vagina.
spin.
My vagina. Dear God.
And you go and you're like, this is not for me. Like I've been there, right? And so, and I do love a good spin class every once in a while, but it's one of those things I'm like, it's not what lights me up inside, right? And for me, my soulmate workout's strength training, right? That's been through me through a lot of hard times in my life. That's the workout where I feel great after, right? So if the motivation's lacking, I think about what I'm going to feel like after that workout, and that's what gets me there, right? So maybe that's walking for you, maybe that's boxing, maybe it's lifting, maybe it is the spin class, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's a bar class. Like, find something and allow yourself to do that, even if it's not aligned with your goals. Maybe you want to gain muscle. So you want to go strength train, you want to go lift, but like all you have time for is yoga. Like, there's going to be benefits in doing that yoga long term in your strength training. So, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I never had it put to me like that too, as your soulmate workout. But as soon as you started saying it, I was like, yeah, I was like building it
Mhm.
out. I was like, there's a lot of box jumps. And
Mhm.
and sometimes you're like, what's better for my goals right now is to deadlift. But you know what? What's better for my heart is burpees. I know more
Absolutely.
That's
people
just
don't say
you.
that, but it's
That's
me.
just you.
Uh-huh. That's just you. Mhm. Mhm.
But I do it. Sometimes like you're just like, okay, I have to get one that makes me feel good. And even just realizing that like that could change from day to day too. Like some
Yes.
days you're like, you know what, it's all about like I want to feel strong, so I'm gonna go lift some stuff. But like other days you're like, you know, I should take a yoga class. Like I'm feeling like just a little bit, or just like gentle stretching, or like some breathing, or even just going for a walk. And you're like, that wasn't, you know what, going for a walk was my soulmate workout today. And like
Absolutely.
it can change, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can change like hour to hour,
Yeah.
right? So, like, when you wake up, you might not want to do 100 burpees. I know I don't. You might want to. I don't. But, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the day, like, I could do 100 burpees, or I could do 10 burpees. I'll give you 10. I could do 10
Hmm.
burpees. So, there's things that just like I could definitely go for a walk at 7 p.m. I'm not a PM workout person. Like, that for me is just hard for me because again, chasing around two little children throughout the whole day. So that just doesn't work for me. But right now, right? And it might work later in life, but right now it doesn't work for me. So it's finding what works for you in this season of your life, in this season of summer, in this season of whatever day you have going on. So giving yourself grace, right? Allowing yourself that movement is going to be okay. Just that move, like some movement is always better than no movement at all.
I love that. I'm inspired. I hope everyone is inspired that, you don't have to make a huge overhaul. You aren't off the wagon and it's burning down. You aren't, needing to go back and owe, all these burpees for all the hot dogs that you ate. That
Right.
just
Oh.
simply, we're just living life, and that today you could drink a little bit more water, find
Mm-hmm.
20 minutes to take a walk, and all of a sudden, and like add some spinach into a smoothie, and all of a sudden, like there's a massive change in your day. And it's just, that's a really hopeful concept, I think, as opposed to first I'll eat all of this ice cream and then I'll start on Monday to hate myself and restrict.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just really hopeful, and I hope a lot of people feel inspired in this busy time of year that it can still happen. Katy, where can our listeners hear more from you? Where can they get in touch with you? What's happening?
Yeah. So I have Instagram. It's strong as a mother STL. So STL is for St. Louis. And there's periods between everything. So it's strong period as period a mother. Because if you put strong as a mother without periods in between, it looks like strong ass mother.
Either
Fun
way,
fact.
I mean, I'm just
I mean,
saying,
really.
either way, if I think it's good for you. So
So it's strong as a mother, STL. So yeah, my whole account is like fitness, nutrition, and it's just like what we talked about today. So just very simple tips for everyday people, right? I'm not like catering to the bodybuilder or whatever. Like, I have a very specific niche of just real life people that are just training for life. And I'm a mom of two, so I throw my kids in sometimes too. I was a teacher, so there's some like fun kid stuff on there as well. So yeah, that's where you can find me. And then like I said, I have a women's only fitness company, and that's linked in my profile too. That's all in-person stuff. So if you are local to St. Louis, we'd love to have you. We have run outdoor fitness classes in Brentwood and St. Louis.
I love that. And I hope you guys go follow Katy because your feed should be filled with things like this. That's how I feel. Just like realistic, like here's some small changes you to live a healthy lifestyle in whatever season you're in, and just like not filled with shame and just kind of these like negative things that we get, these ruts that we get into with our bodies and the things that we follow, and like then we get into this whole like negative mindset when it comes to fitness, and no wonder why people don't want to implement it back in their life, because it has such a negative experience around it.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah.
definitely check Katy out, and thank you so much for coming on with us today. This was awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you too so much.